From One of One Production Studio, located in Fort Lee, New Jersey, this is The Art of Music Tech. And now, here's your host, Fela and Dennis.
Let's go, and welcome to the Art of Music Tech podcast. I'm your host, Fela, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis.
Hello.
And I'm here with an old friend, brother, a guy that I've known since the beginning of knowing what a fader is, and that's Eddie Hernandez, a.k.a. eMIX. Let's go. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you for joining us. We wanted to do this for a while. It's just been schedules, and I know your schedule is all, we're all over the place, but finally.
Name of the game,
Yes, exactly. I mean, what we've been doing, just to give everybody a little background, me and Eddie met at Full Sail University. It wasn't even a university when we went, a matter of fact. So
what was it?
It was like a trade school more so.
Real world education.
Yeah, but you can just get your associates when we went at the time. Now you can get master's degree and all types of things. So let's get into that. What made you go to Full Sail?
And I'm also interested, where you from? What's your background, your parents too?
Okay, yeah. So I'll start from the very
from the beginning.
From the beginning, yeah.
Well, my father's Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, and my mother's Mexican by way of LA, Los Angeles. They actually met each other in Germany when my father and her were both in the armed services, and I was born there. I didn't stay there long, and no, I don't know how to speak German. I was an army brat for a while, but was located. We pretty much set roots down in Miami, Florida, North Miami to be exact. When I was about 5 years old, and I've been there and still live there currently, North Miami. Music for me started with my dad's record collection. To his credit, he was a pretty all-around music lover, anything from jazz and, of course, the Latin influences of salsa and
Nice.
a lot of Motown, and then also a lot of hard rock. So, they both worked a lot. So I was home alone a lot. I'm an only child. So I used to dig through those crates and really just kind of pick music by the cover, and whatever kind of grabbed me, I just pop it on and see what it was. And a lot of the early stuff I was listening to was I really got locked into the Beatles heavy, and because it was kind of more than music. They were doing a lot of just really different sounding stuff.
Sounds, yeah.
Right. They were like reversing things and sampling birds, and it was definitely super interesting to me. And at that point, I'm young, very young, and it's not even about the technicality of it. It was purely off the feel of what I was listening to, and it drew me to the point where I started taking his records and keeping them in my room, which ended up like being kind of a beautiful accident in a way. When I was here during Hurricane Andrew, and when Hurricane Andrew hit, his record collection was in the living room, and that window got broken out. And all those records got ruined, and the only records that survived were the records that I was supposed to be putting back, but I was keeping them in my room. So those are all the Beatles records, Michael Jackson records, Motown records, and a couple salsa records that I just always listened to. And to this day, I have them framed in my house. I put them on the wall now.
Nice.
So that's how it kind of started, real basic. And then as I grew, because I was an only child, my dad used to let me stay over my grandmother's house, and I had an uncle who was like 3 years older than me. Was more like a big brother to me. and he started playing bass in a heavy metal group. And I'd be there during like heavy, like we were listening to Metallica and Megadeth and
Oh wow, okay.
Exodus.
Yeah.
And so they would have rehearsals in his garage there, at my grandma's house. So we'd have the full band in there, drums, bass, guitar, singer. So we had amps, effects pedals, all that running. And that was AKA a duly used space for his room and my room too. So we used to sleep in there with all this gear.
Nice.
And again, being that I was the only child and I was younger and he would go out and hang out with his friends, I'd be there by myself. I would tap into these effects processors, start playing with them, play the bass a little bit, and just get the tones and sounds, play the drums. And so it was a real harsh contrast to my neighborhood I'm growing up. I'm basically giving you the origins of kind of like where all my musical influences came from. Started with my dad before I went outside. Then it started to expand with my grandma's house with that heavy metal. And then it was when I started hanging out with my friends in the neighborhood. My friends in the neighborhood was all, hip hop and rap.
So this is like mid 90s by then, right? Like
this is
like hop, early 90s or
late 80s.
Late 80s. Okay. Well, okay. We
dating myself.
Okay. Luke and stuff about it. Yeah, I mean,
for sure. Definitely Luke
yeah,
era.
I mean, Miami. Yeah, let's go.
We was a different generation, and I was moving around in the neighborhood when I was 9 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so I was 9 in
that's that city life. Okay,
right. So that was hip hop, and then back then in that era, it was real conflicting because it was either your heavy metal or your rap.
Yeah.
In my community that I grew up in, you would consider what they call a headbanger. Skateboarding, all that shit was not the thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, on some fight shit, like they'll fight you over that.
Oh, you jump.
Yeah, they'll jump you riding a skateboard. This headbanger.
You end up fighting too, right? No, did you end up fighting? Did you end up fighting too?
I was always I don't want to get too deep on that, but I come from that neighborhood.
Hey, as they say, you gotta know your hands. Gotta have some hands on you.
Right? Yeah, I did a lot of that, and I mean, and I had respect. So even though they were kind of kid, my friends would kid about it. I kind of earned my rights to listen to whatever I wanted to listen to.
Dope.
So I wasn't in. Yeah, it was. So I was always a happy-go-lucky music loving kid, but the neighborhood I grew up in, it definitely toughened me up early, and also it kind of made me understand the differences in the audiences that were appreciating different types of music, where I always felt like I never had those boundaries from the beginning. I never understood those boundaries.
I know, right?
Whatever was good music was good music. So that's
right.
And that was something that I developed early that it worked out.
Every engineer needs that. First of all, is you just need to love sounds and just like, well, what makes this sound right, or getting it to its best, its best thing it can be. So
yeah. So I mean, regardless of what any kind of genre, I've never been. People ask me all the time, "What's your favorite type of music?" or "What's your favorite?" Good music.
Good music.
Yeah.
It could be country or orchestral. It could be whatever. If it moves me, it moves me. I'm not gonna let the labels dictate how it affects me. So fast forward. Now we're in the mid. I'd say mid to late 90s. I'm probably about 16, 17. I had some friends that were DJs, and I started hooking up with them. Just hanging out. They had like a little fake studio set up in the back of their house there, and they had some DJ equipment. We used to go there, just hang out. And I was just like, before that, we were all good kids, man, just getting into trouble though, because we didn't have nothing better to do. We were just hanging out in the park, and somebody would suggest, let's go do something. And now we're in a stolen car or something.
Damn.
So this was the first time that I had some friends that were doing something fun and interesting, but also very productive.
And positive.
And positive, right?
Yeah.
And they started setting up. They were doing like dances at our high school and stuff like that. And here's kind of like a cool little cross point where with another pair of amazing and big time producers, our what I guess OGs are like our big brothers in the industry now, were Cool and Dre.
Yeah.
And Cool and Dre were DJs back then, and Cool and Dre were doing the bigger parties. So we were like up under them in a way, because we were the younger kids coming out right behind them doing little parties for our people too.
And if you're not familiar, Cool and Dre, I mean, just prolific producers, hip hop producers, if you've never heard of Cool and Dre. So from the beginning, you knew that, well, earlier.
We're all from the same neighborhood. We're all from
nice.
And so Cool and Dre and them, you know, not that they had a big influence on us at that time. We didn't hang out because they were older and they were kind of already moving on a bigger level, but they definitely you know, showed us love when we crossed paths. And you know, it's a trip now. You know, I tell Dre all the time when I see him that, man, you know, we used to be little kids just sneaking into y'all shows and stuff, and you know, it's so big. And Dre was the first one to shout out our city, North Miami, on the record. So that was always so that started happening. And then that little studio in the back started to progress and turned into like a real studio where the young gentleman, our buddy, actually started signing acts and stuff like that. And we had people coming from all over the city, like North Miami, coming to his studio to work. I really didn't do any engineering then at all.
Do you remember equipment you had back then? What kind of equipment?
I still don't know, man. He sent off for this program, and it was like way ahead of his time. It wasn't Pro Tools. I don't know what it was. It was
digital, right?
It was digital. It was on computer.
Okay.
That wasn't my first setup, because this is what ends up happening is I'm hanging out with them, but I never had time to get in on the equipment because he had that thing slammed. There was always people there working. They were always you know, recording or producing. So I would kind of go there and watch. And little by little, I had just got a job. This is when I just graduated high school. I got a job. I was actually in the medical field. I was an EMT. I did a bunch of stuff, phlebotomy and soft cast, et cetera, EKGs. But after work, I'd come there and I would just kind of like observe and I would learn. And so then I would buy my own equipment and then I'd work on my own. So I still own my first Korg D8 8-track digital recorder. And I bought me a Dr. Bass, Dr. Rhythm DR5, and I would just kind of learn with them and then go and take my own time and just apply everything and work on stuff and then come back and play them tapes. I was recording everything in a cassette tape.
No,
of course.
Play it to them on a Walkman and just like, yo, you know, put these headphones on, listen to this. And that's how the love kind of started. I was moving around doing some stuff with some of my DJ homeboys. We were on the radio, on local pirate radio. But it didn't really feel, I knew I loved it and I was dedicating a lot of time to it, but it didn't feel like a reality of a career.
A career, yeah.
There was no gap. There was no bridge there for me to actually say, okay, you do this, 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 and this is how you get over there. It was kind of just, we're doing us, and I don't know, you know. And then one day we were at the studio, and our local there was a local grand opening to a music store right in our neighborhood, probably a mile away from our house. So we all like got together and walked over there, and there was the Full Sail tour bus. And we went on there and they gave us all the pamphlets. Everybody was excited. And that was the first time I was like, wow, they actually give degrees for this. This is something. Wow. And I was amazed. I looked at the little pamphlet I sent away for the big booklet. Got all of that. And I was go to work every day with this little booklet, man, and read it cover to cover. And I knew those rooms.
Same here. It was like you knew who Leslie was by the time. Magazine, exactly, on the pool table. That's still like
Yep, holding an SP12.
Exactly. That was my introduction to was that magazine.
100%.
It was just like, there's people that do this and they
Yeah.
live off of it.
Right.
Yeah, I was like that too. It's in South Carolina, like everybody's like, you can't make, nobody does that, you know. Just a couple people, okay, but yeah. So
it was definitely some secret society stuff that you just had to kind of know somebody to get in. Before that was was missing.
It was total. What is it when you know, like family member? It's a word for it. Nepotism. It was straight nepotism before I couldn't even think of it. Like, unless you were like Quincy Jones' second cousin, like you had to like know somebody super deep in the industry was always the feel, especially in that day. And that was before the internet, and you couldn't just reach out as easily as you can now.
Yeah.
So
I tell
that's
all the time. Yeah, you got YouTube, you got so much stuff. I literally went to that same music store I told you had the grand opening and would buy the books.
Yes, Mix magazine and all the like, even the magazines and the book. Yeah, just
because like again, I bought that 8-track. I didn't even have a car. I went and bought it on a bicycle and brought the box, in my lap. And and literally figured it out, read the manual, and then they said, oh, if you want to sync, you want to record your drums in on time with the rest of the music, you need to sync it with MIDI. And I said, what's MIDI? And I'd go buy a book on MIDI, read about MIDI, daisy chaining, all that stuff. So I got to a point where this is all before Full Sail. I was daisy chaining already, samplers and keyboards and all that. Little by little, I was just building my little studio setup. And again, it wasn't at that time. I was still not. It had no direction of this is my career. This is what I'm gonna do. This was just something that it started. It really became like It was a slow burn, like obsession. Like I want to. How do they do that? I'm gonna buy this sampler. Oh, I'm gonna buy that. How do you loop things? And I just kept on doing it and getting better at it. And I had some homeboys that was rapping, but like it was weird when I bought all my equipment. It's like everybody stopped doing it, and so I started like I didn't want to rap, but I started rapping just so I can go through the recording process and like do songs.
That's key. That's key. Figuring out how to do it yourself and doing it yourself whenever you have time. I tell students to do that all the time. It's just like you just gotta get into the rhythm of it.
Get lost.
Whether you have to create it. I mean, if nobody's around, then you do it. Like what? I
always call it getting lost. Like and then figure your way back. Like crank stuff up, turn stuff down. You gotta see the extremes of all the parameters, and you can find your middle ground and find out where you're at. So I mean exactly. I do that now because especially in studios that I'm not
familiar with.
Right, like because even if they have some gear that looks familiar, it might not respond the same way. So I'll still push the gear a little bit just to see, because sometimes something simple, it'll be like the gain staging is weird on it, so you hit it like a little bit, like a millimeter, and all of a sudden it's like blasting, and it's like, so then something's wrong with the circuitry here. But now I know, and I can still figure it out and still have a productive session. So anyway, I did that, and then it just started. It started to really take a hold of me, and then I just started saying, "Man, I'm gonna go to the open house." I wasn't letting this thing go, and I went to the open house, and I was blown away. I went.
That's the selling. Oh, you went by yourself? Wow.
I went by myself. That's the first time I drove that far by myself. It was a 4-hour trip from Miami. And I got lost on the way. I had that was back when we had printed up
MapQuest. That was way before Google. MapQuest will get you even more lost.
I printed up the MapQuest and got lost, and found myself. I mean, I had got a cell phone, but remember, these are primitive cell phones. There ain't no email or nothing on it. There ain't no internet. but I was lost. I had to stop, ask some people, got to where I got to go. Did it, amazed, came back, jaded. Now, like, the world was great to me, and this is the only thing that was gonna, solve my
Your
my my
problems.
my empty hole in my heart. Yeah. So I worked for another like 2 years and saved up money, applied for, support and everything, got in. And I wasn't a great student previous to that, but I was like, man, I'm spending this money. And then I was doing a lot of like no-nos as far as my family was concerned, because to them I was already on the way to be a successful person. I was working in the hospital. Oh, they're already telling people I'm a doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor.
Oh wow, like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's gonna be. Oh, it's my doctor. He's gonna be.
Oh, that.
Especially island people. It's like
Oh yeah, doctor, lawyer. You got to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, they came from the island. They sacrificed, and look at my guy. Look at my son, my grandson. He's gonna be. But then I said, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna do music. And I was like,
Yeah.
You don't even play an instrument. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You're making money now, and now you're gonna not make money, pay money to learn something. What?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of opposition. So I came into it with a chip on my shoulder to prove that my decision was the right one. So I came in there super militant, like super, I ain't playing. And what's so funny, right? Like, I remember I went up with my girl, which Fela knows. Which is the mother of my child, which he's doing well. He's in college now.
Yeah.
Yo.
Wow.
But I went up with her, and I remember telling her, yeah, that's it, man. I'm sitting front row. I'm taking notes. And see, I've never been a morning person. I remember our first like 3 months, the general classes. Oh man, they were early. And almost like probably the first class in, I'm sitting here just, I'm front row and I'm just bobbing. I'm all the intent is there. I want to be this, bright and early person. I couldn't do it.
Hey, I was right there with you in the first row, like.
Yeah. Nodding.
Exactly.
But I kicked ass in notes and I did what I had to do.
Oh yeah.
It's funny how things work out, where I met a couple guys that were like-minded guys that lived near me, which one of them was Shema, which is Sak Passe, which is now he's produced, for Rihanna. And
Dope. Okay.
Kanye West and all these people. This was a dude that was in my class that he was from Fort Lauderdale, but we met in Orlando at Full Sail. And we just became real good buddies, and we
were all on the first row.
Yeah, yeah, that's where Fela.
We all did pretty well.
Yeah. So we studied. What we would do is we would jump in people's their labs, their after class studio time. That we would do ours, and then we would do other people's. And then, we would, because that's what they kind of promoted back then.
Some people would leave.
Yeah.
Leave the labs early. So, yeah, it was room. So yeah.
Like, we just, taking advantage of every opportunity.
Yeah.
So fast forward, we graduate, everything like that. I was lucky enough that I had a studio, which is funny that when I first started attending Full Sail, I found out that there's a studio literally 3 blocks from my house. A rather well-known studio. To the industry, but not really in our neighborhood. It was so low key, where like Betty Wright did a lot of recording there.
Soul music, Clean Up Woman and all that kind of,
yeah. Inner Circle. Well, Clean Up Woman was earlier. That was
that was early. Okay,
that was earlier than that. But because I also have the world famous Criteria Studios down the street from us, also not too far from us. So, which Criteria Studios, Clean Up Woman, you got James Brown, I Feel Good. The BG, most of the BG stuff was done at Criteria. They just had a,
and the head guy that was there forever. Was that where the older guy that Tom Dowd was there.
Like Tom Dowd came down there. They did a lot of the Eric Clapton stuff, Allman Brothers stuff. Layla was recorded at Criteria Records in Miami.
Nice. Oh wow.
So there's a lot of, Hotel California was recorded there. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's all major hits. Like I said, I Feel Good. James Brown. That was the first hit that came out of that studio. That's what put that studio on the map.
Uh-huh.
I believe that was like 56 or something like that.
Jeez.
So Tom Dowd, his seconds, which then later became the head engineers there, were two brothers named Howard and Albert. No, Howard, Ron and Howard Albert. Their last name is Albert. And those guys became the head engineers. They became head engineers, owners of the studio that I started at. So those were my first mentors.
Nice.
And one of the Bee Gees engineers was also one of their partners, which he's in the documentary too. If you see this new documentary, the Bee Gees they do a lot of coverage on the criteria.
Definitely have to check that out. Okay.
One of their engineer was Carl Richardson, and he was also on the staff and also one of the owners of the studio that I started at. So this shit was 3 blocks away from my house. I never knew it. I heard rumors that, like, you know, when people be going to school, they'd be like, "Yo, we just saw Bone Thugs and Harmony," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." So this shit was really there.
Just driving in a regular.
Yeah,
as long as you weren't in a limo or something, you could just roll through and like nobody would notice, really. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny that even now, as you know, working in the industry and you know, doing some well-known stuff, how inconspicuous we still are, and even the studios. Because like if you don't know, it's totally off the map. It's almost like it's like invisible. It's like it's hidden in plain sight. A lot of these studios where a lot of this stuff happens, it's like
I lived in Miami for 4 years and never saw none of these studios. I'm like, where did you?
In the hood.
I was in the live side, but I was always like, well, I don't even know where is this stuff happening. And I was like in you know, Aventura and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I was
right up the street.
Exactly. That's what I had no idea. I never saw or heard. Yeah, like no other. Yeah, you really had to be in the know in Miami to know where the studios were.
Yeah,
maybe Circle House. I had like. I mean, that was hidden too. So I mean, like all of that kind of stuff. So
Aventura is literally about 10 minutes away from Criteria Studios. It's on the same street. It's on Biscayne Boulevard.
Exactly. So I lived right there.
Yeah, I literally live 2 minutes away from it now, off to the east now. Anyway,
okay, man, we were that close. I was thinking you were like way north of me, and like, oh no. Wow.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm North Miami.
Dang. Okay.
So I started there, and things. It's just you know, kismet, man. Things happen the way they're supposed to happen. The
first time I saw your name and credits was in the Beer and Chicken.
Yeah.
Ludacris.
That was actually, wow. Yeah, that was my first major credit.
And that was crazy because out by that time I wasn't really buying that many CDs, but I was like, you know, I'm gonna buy this CD, and and I couldn't believe. I was like, let me look through the liner notes. Who knew?
Yeah,
I know somebody in the line.
That was recorded at that studio at Audio Vision Studios in North Miami. Ludacris was here for like Memorial Day weekend or something, and he just popped in, and he had to do the hook. Him and Shauna in the second verse. He popped in. It was a 4-hour session. I wasn't even a full engineer at the time. I was still considered an assistant, so I got paid like lame assistant money.
But you got some credit.
Oh, well, you know, at the time, it is what it is. It was cool. I'm listening. I remember I did the song, and everything went well. This is how I was so green to the whole situation still, that like, I don't know, maybe a month or two later, I was driving in the car and I heard the song, and I didn't remember the song. And it was like one of those kind of like deja vu things where I was like, man, this sounds familiar. Yeah, so he popped in, we did the record. A couple months later, I heard the record. It didn't dawn on me until maybe right when the song finished that I was like, that's the song I recorded. And it blew my mind. I was so super excited, happy and all that. And then the next one was when actually Shaman, he called me and said, congratulations. And I was like, for what? He's like, well, your name's in that album. And he sent me a picture. And I literally, hit a U-turn and went straight to the music store to buy an album to go see my name on the project.
No.
And that was big. That was a big record for me. That was a great selling point for me because that was Grammy nominated.
Yeah, that was a huge.
I have to. Yeah, it was Grammy nominated. It was produced by Kanye West. Best. I got it on the wall here. Nominated for best solo male performance.
Nice.
We lost to Eminem. Eminem had that big record, "Lose Yourself."
Lose Yourself, yeah.
Oh man, that record was humongous, man.
Humongous. It was
if it wasn't for M, I would have had my Grammy.
Yeah.
But what it taught me that one credit right there, it was really one of the biggest lessons of my career that I had. It took me, it introduced me to the business and what this business is really about. And what it was that, first off, I was getting paid $10 an hour. It's a 4-hour session. So I got paid $40 for this record.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's a big record, you got a lot of work to do to make sure the lights still get paid, So that was a stark, just, I don't even know what to call it, just impactful moment where I was like, wow. Because in my head, before going to Full Sail, and even while in Full Sail, I figured if I got a platinum record and I've worked at Criteria Studios, then everything else falls into place. Like I must be living good by that time. Boy,
yeah.
You gotta be killing the game with a platinum record. And so here I go, I'm multiple platinum, Grammy nominated, and I got $40 for the session. So, but I had the guy who became one of my mentors into the industry was a gentleman known by the name of Disco Rick. Which he's a Miami bass music, kind of like him and Luke are like hand in hand. Like Luke was the godfather, but Disco Rick is like not too far behind him. He had records like Your Mama on Crack Rock, and he had him Wiggle 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 and stuff like that.
Oh, I remember Wiggle Wiggle.
Yeah, Wiggle Wiggle Wiggle. So that, Disco Rick and the Dogs. Which funny enough, I was a big Disco Rick fan. So when I met Disco, it bugged me out. So Disco really took me under his wing, and he kind of became my pseudo manager. And he's the one who told me, he's like, now you got something to sell yourself with. Now that you got something, you've done something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you can promote yourself and tell people that you've done something that they can register. Like, oh yeah, I know that record. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And, I sold the hell out of that. Yeah, I'm the guy who did
exactly.
that.
I say that's like, when you're first out of school and they're like, every entry level needs 3 to 4 years of experience. That's kind of like what your credits are. It's like, how do you get a gig until you get credits? But how do you get credits without a gig? It's like which
right.
So that's basically what this is. It's like, when you work at certain places, people are more apt to pay attention. Like in the live world, for me, it was working at Claire. It was like, all right, once you work there, it's going to be hard for any other sound company to say no. So, which, it just made it that much easier. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's when started kind of the road of just the grind. That's where the grind came in. And because now it was like, it's crazy because even with that bit of success and I started getting bigger gigs. I started working with like Ghostface Killer, Busy Bone, Method Man, Raekwon, a lot of these guys early. Again, it was a grind. I was doing Busy Bone and Ghostface Killer back to back. I was doing like Busy during the day, and then Ghost would come at night, and I was literally just sleeping in the lounge. They tell me when my client shows up, and I was doing that for years. All this time I got a newborn child. When I started interning, my son was born. So it was a different, I didn't have any leeway to kind of play around, because no matter how cool it was for me as a fan of the game, when I came home, I had the missus, with a handout, and, my parents, everybody's like, okay, where's the money? Yeah, that sounds cool, but where's the money?
Yeah. And
so I had to really like bust my ass and really make this shit make sense. not just for me, because for me, yeah, you know, as anybody, and I think a lot of kids coming up now, they don't understand the responsibility of, you know, just being an adult and paying rent and shit. They're cool with like crashing on couch, you know, and being at their mom house and doing this, which is cool. If I mean, you know, but you shouldn't take advantage of that, and you should build to be in a place where you're self-sustainable. I mean,
Yes.
above all, because sometimes I hear kids tell me stuff like, you know, this is my, you know, plan A. I don't have a plan B, and it's like, yo, and I would tell them, and it sounds crazy coming from me because, okay, yeah, this is what I do, but hey, if this wasn't making me money, I got to do something that's going to make me money. Not to say I would stop doing music, but it would be a great hobby of mine. I got to make money. And so I try to explain that to even kids now, where it's okay to have a job and pursue music. Like you can, you know,
Well,
write
you
on your
have
off
to.
time. Yeah.
You
I mean,
have to.
Buy this
It don't make
expensive
no
gear
sense.
too.
I know, to keep up with yeah.
I've had kids tell me they're gonna quit school, like college, to focus on a music career. It's like, why? Why do you have to quit college for that? Don't make
Yeah.
no sense. I mean, because I always go back to the story about Eminem, where Eminem he talks about he used to be a bus boy in a restaurant, and he would write on napkins and shit, and it popped for him. Because why? Because he had a daughter, and he had to bring home that money.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Quick question: Do you
go ahead.
think having kids pushes you even harder and further?
I mean, you know, the thing about this industry and the thing about life in general, it's an individual game. It depends on the individual, and it depends on what drives you.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, my kid kept me disciplined and in
Mm-hmm.
check. But I told you guys earlier, I still had a major chip on my shoulder when it came to my parents and a lot of people around me that were doubting me. So it was a combination of those two things for me to like, I'm going to prove you guys wrong, and I'm going to show you guys that this was the right decision.
No.
And then that just internalized into self-discipline and focus for me to like stay on my ass when shit was down, man. I had a lot of down times where I and this is before things really started getting better. I was just, you know, just because real life was hitting me. I was still young. I was in my early 20s, and hey man, shout out to my young self to keep sticking with it and seeing the future, you know, even when it was gloomy as shit, like that. I just said, I'm gonna stick with this shit. I'm not gonna waver. Even to the point where me and the baby mom split and all that, and I still said, hey, I've done all this sacrifice. If I leave the music game now, I've sacrificed for nothing. And it really whittled down to that's all I had was this dream, this passion for music, and this want to be a player in bringing music to the world. And it was rough. It was very rough because there was nobody there to say, you're on the right path, man. Everybody was like, are you done now?
Yeah.
Is it out of your system?
You good now playing? All right. So when you gonna get that real job?
Okay. We tolerated you long enough. Is it not obvious to you now that this is not working?
This may not be, you know. Yeah, I don't even know what keeps us going at times, but yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, if you've been in anything that you're super passionate about, that it's not super easy to get to. It's like, yeah, just getting that, earning that, and all the shit you got to go through to make it happen. It's just like,
yeah. Well, because then, like kind of like we were saying about being hidden in plain sight, it's kind of like it's like a whole parallel universe to what like I really call the 9 to 5 world like it's kind of it. I call those people civilians, and I feel like we're in the Matrix. I feel like we ate the red pill and we kind of know what's really going on behind the scenes, how all this shit gets put together, and these people are and the civilians are the consumers of the stuff we create. Why I say that? Because we usually move on we move on the opposite hours of the 9 to 5 world. You know what I mean?
So true.
So they don't understand that. So later on in my life, I had a better understanding because I did have some I wasn't really getting along with like my parents and some of my people in my family because of that. But later on, I had to understand that they've been ingrained with the old world way of, just you get a 9 to 5, you work hard, you work your way up, you stay there
Hmm.
for 30
Yeah.
years grinding it out. And so that's all they knew. So, that's what they figured is success, and you do good and you get a promotion, they give you, an extra dollar an hour, and wow, congratulations, So
Yeah.
I, later on I understood that, but at the time I still had a chip, and I had to let them know because, again, they didn't get why I'm coming home at 4 a.m. and I'm sleeping until 12 when they're waking up at 5 to go to work. My dad especially was like, no, you just, I heard it all. So that was definitely a lot of stuff I had to go through. So then, I'll move forward to a big breakthrough that happened for me was, I was working with Ghostface, and Ghostface, I'm a big Wu-Tang fan, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna breeze through it a little bit because that in itself, that whole Ghostface is a
Era.
hour-long podcast on its own.
We'll come back.
Let's come back. Can we come
Come
back?
back on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But
No.
but it started out great, and then what I'll say is Ghost was the first client, because up until because Ghost was early in my career also. This is all early. This is my first year. I only probably interned for 3 months. I didn't intern long because, again, the way things worked out, most of their engineers went freelance, and some of them, and their head engineer actually moved to start his own studio in like up north. And so it was me and one of our other classmates, Devin. I don't know if you remember Devin.
Yeah, I remember Devin. He went to Duke. Yeah.
Duke, yes.
Yeah.
So me and Devin were the two engineers there, and it was a 3-room facility. So, and Devin graduated a month earlier than me because he had previous credits from Duke. He had music
Yeah.
history credits, so
Exactly.
so he was kind of the head now, and I was kind of the second. And but I was still barely there, like I was an intern, so I was basically running. But immediately, like 3 months in, the owners got booked out, and they were like, "Are you ready?" And of course, you say, "Yeah," and I was, and so, okay, jumping a little bit back into the future, however that works. Months later, after I first started there, I started working with Ghostface, and we hit it off. We hit it off early, and then ran a snag where, again, like I said, the sessions I was doing when I told them I was ready, everybody loved me, everybody thought I was the best. And all the way through school, I was like, my dream was happening exactly how I had pictured it.
No.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I met Ghostface, and Ghostface, maybe a weekend, man, was not happy with his vocal sound, was just not happy with anything. The AC was too hot, it was too cold. It was just everything could go wrong that would go wrong, and he had these fits. And I'm just sweating bullets every session. I honestly, I got to a point where I dreaded going because I really didn't know what to do. I was out of my element, and and this guy's not only just a music industry veteran, multi-platinum artist, but he's also like a guy that I admired as an artist. And he is just not happy with me. He was happy with me, but he wasn't all the way there. And I mean, I to the point where I tried to excuse myself several times and say, "Hey man, maybe I'm just not the guy." And his managers would be like, "No, Ghost loves you. He loves you. He's just breaking your balls." And oh man. So what ended up happening though, it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And again, this is just me being young. And this could have been a make or break moment. I could have really lost because of this situation where I ended up stepping away from the session because I really couldn't take it. It was a lot of pressure, and I just wasn't, I didn't feel like I was doing the project justice. And so I stepped away. And because of that, well, there was some, okay, I remember now. There was a little beef going on with the studio too, because technically, like I told you guys, I was still an assistant. So
Oh, on the 10 an hour.
So they were paying me,
okay,
assistant money for head engineering.
A major artist,
a major label recording artist, Def Jam Records.
Yeah.
And I did step to them because I did find a PO, and I said, hey, look, I'm not gonna hit you because they were charging 40. I said, look, just give me 20. I get it, I'm young, and they wouldn't budge. So I was still going through these hassles, and it was getting, I mean, again, not to turn this into to that, but I mean, we got into
No.
the spaces and all that. It was a lot. So because I just got to the point where I was like, I'm not getting paid enough. So I left, which blackballed me from that studio. That studio, even though they might not say they did, and just to say this,
Uh-huh.
I'm still me and Ghost, we cleaned it up. I ended up later on going back and hanging out with Ghost, not as an engineer, just as a homie. And to his same sessions, he got a new engineer, and I would just hang out with them and listen to music and just talk shit and like that.
Yeah.
So, because I don't want to. I tell the story, but I have to tell people that we cleaned it up. He was a problem, and it was a lot to take care of him. But
Well,
he squashed it though.
I have a ghost face story in the live world. With,
Okay.
actually, we did the whole Wu-Tang Clan at Revolution in Fort
Wow.
Lee. And my mentor, Courtney, was doing monitors for Wu-Tang.
Uh-huh.
If you can imagine, that's like 12 wireless mics on the
Wow.
stage at one time. And you're trying to like follow who, because you can't have them all up,
Yeah.
text stuff. But Ghostface and Raekwon, they almost got into a fight with my mentor just over monitors. So I mean, so that
Yeah.
sounds about, just,
Yeah.
it's not the easiest, group to
Right.
get, it's a lot because there's so much going on. And it's kind of a chaotic,
Super chaotic.
it's a lot going on. And you're like, who's, and they had Wu-Tang, minus ODB by this time, unfortunately. But it was still like 3 or 4 other guys too. Yeah, it was just like, okay. Yeah, just packed. So I can imagine how it would be in the studio because it's chaotic on stage. So
that threw me. So now I'm not working because I was technically staffed there. I wasn't freelance yet. So now they weren't booking me. Again, they didn't. It was not. It was unspoken, but I wasn't getting any sessions, and really, and then Ghost was like a great opportunity. So I was like really like in a. And then honestly in the personal life too, I think me and the missus were already kind of at odds. So it was like a lot coming down on me at that same time. And that's when even I had to I broke down kind of like and had to question like, man, did I make the right choice? Were these people right? And that goes to say just to people that have loved ones that are trying to pursue their dreams. It's like it's important to just give some type of positive reinforcement, even if you don't understand it. At least respect and admire their drive for something. Because I was definitely alone at that point where there was nobody that could say, hey man, just stick with it. I was the one that somewhere somehow found it in myself to say I'm gonna stick with it. So what I ended up doing was kind of like after I was kind of like in my woes or whatever I literally, again, this is pre-YouTube and all that. And if there was a YouTube, it wasn't very the internet in general, even though this is probably around what 03, 04, was still pretty limited on what you could find. It was kind
super
of
limited. Yeah.
So but I was literally searching for vocal techniques, recording vocals, anything like that. So I found a couple different books, and I went like on a tear reading anything and everything. And I had a little Digio One set up at my house, and I would just again record myself and try techniques and EQ myself and compress myself and just practice. And during this downtime where I wasn't getting booked, because I told myself, I was still attending like open mic nights and going out to things to try and just drum up business for myself. So I was like, when the opportunity presents itself again, I'll be prepared. And that's kind of what I did with that downtime. So then I got a call from Disco Rick that he was starting his own studio, and he wanted me to be the head engineer. So I went over there, which wasn't too far. It was actually very close by Aventura. And my first artist I was working with was Uncle Luke. And everybody in Miami knows who Uncle Luke is.
I
Everybody knows
mean,
Uncle Luke. I remember seeing those
in the
albums.
South, period.
Yeah. So this is the
Yes.
first time I'm meeting Uncle Luke, and wow. And it's
Yeah.
funny because Uncle Luke had kind of already passed. He wasn't past it because he still does it now. He still has his
Yeah.
party, but he was like, he would literally come to the sessions right after coaching,
Oh, football and stuff,
football
right?
for the
Yeah,
kids.
for the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, he had like a league and stuff, and so he would
Yeah.
come there sometimes still in his like shorts and the whistle and all that. It was good. But what that did was that project was his last LP that he ever put out. And what that did, being that it was, and it was already kind of said in the industry, and at least in Miami music scene, everybody knew that Uncle Luke was working on his last album. Everybody came out, and this was my introduction to the Miami music scene because of that project. I met Trick Daddy, Pitbull,
Oof.
Jackie O, Trina.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's an era. Yeah, that
and this
2005
is
or four. Yeah, this is.
and this is Trick Daddy. This is Slip and Slide Records. This is Trick
Oh
Daddy
yeah,
and Trina at their pinnacle.
yeah. Shut
So
up and all.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh my
right. Chick
goodness,
Love the Kid,
baddest
all that.
chick. Yeah. Oh
Baddest
okay.
Chick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of that, at that point, disco started calling me eMIX. And I didn't like eMIX because there's a DJ that used to DJ here in Power 96 called eMIX. So I was like, man, there's already a DJ. He's like, nah, but you mix, you mix on the boards. And I was like, but he would call me that in front of everybody all the time. Like, oh, this eMIX. Oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. eMIX, yo, eMIX. And so Uncle Luke started calling me eMIX. Trick started calling me eMIX. Trina, all of them started calling me eMIX. And then I still hated it. And I still kind of like roll my eyes, like it's somebody else's name. And then one time I went to the club for Uncle Luke's birthday, and I was actually at the studio. They left me there, and they were like, "Oh, when you finish up, come check us out at the party." So I went to the party, and when I walked in, I was walking through the crowd up to the DJ booth where Uncle Luke was at. He was on the mic. He goes, "Yo, give a shout out to my engineer eMIX." And then everybody looked at me, and I was like, so then in my head, immediately I said, well, I guess I'm eMIX now. And that's where my name came from.
Uh-huh.
And then I just flipped it to eMIX because then it just kind of differentiated. Plus, a lot of my friends call me E anyway.
Yeah.
So I changed it to eMIX. It just made a lot of sense because I was still getting confused, regardless of what. Because I'm sure the DJ probably just named himself eMIX. Where I think my origin story is a lot better than his, but
Yeah.
who has time to tell that? So,
Yeah.
so people will be like, "Are you from Power 96?" I'm like, "No." So eMIX was just the easy way to just eMIX.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, okay.
Okay.
So during those sessions, there was a young rapper that he was signed to Slip and Slide. Also, he was writing for Trina. He was writing for a couple other people. He had already did some features, but he was still underground. He's doing some mixtapes, and he had a song where he's dissing the CEO of Slip and Slide, and he used a reference of Uncle Luke because well, I'm not even gonna get into that, but yeah, if you dig in there, you'll see. But there's a connection between them. So and Disco Rick played it for Luke, and Luke liked it. He laughed, and he was like, "Yo, we need this kid on the song." So boom, that kid was Rick Ross.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick Ross came in, and he's always been the same. He's the boss. He was the boss when he first walked in. And again, he don't got a plaque. He doesn't have anything. But he had that bravado. He had that attitude, and he definitely had the skills. So the first time he did his record, which you can find it on iTunes. It's a song called "Oh My God" on Uncle Luke's Life and Times of Freaky Tales or some shit like that. It's a song with him, Uncle Luke, and Dirtbag. That's the first time I ever recorded Rick Ross. And immediately he was just super impressive, and I was like, yo, I've never heard anything like this, because he was talking that Miami slang, but he was doing it in a very articulate, more I don't know, strategic way, more of like, that's why a lot of people say he rapped like a New York dude.
Yeah.
But I won't even say that. But it was just he was very lyrical. You know, he knew how to write. He was a great writer.
Yeah.
And so me and him hit it off. Started doing mixtapes. I know the first thing I ever did for him was burn him some extra mixtapes. He came to the studio and he just said, "Hey man, how much you charge me to just that whole?" Remember that's when we had the CDs, those CD spools. How much you charge me to just burn that whole spool, my mixtapes? So I worked out some deal with him. I guess he liked it, so we hit it off. Funny enough, like I went to his house.
Ask you a quick question. I love Rick Ross like that. Like he is one of my favorites. Is he he was always that positive? Like I like him because when you listen to the lyrics, it's really positive. It's about getting money, yes, of course, but it's like, all right, you gotta, but it's a positive spin to it though. That was always there, and that was like it was always.
Well, he's like he's a big question mark. He's an anomaly in himself, you know.
I'm literally reading this book right now. Funny enough, Hurricanes. It's
a great book.
Yeah, I'm listening to it right now, Audible. So yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated.
I'm in the book.
Oh, you're in the book. I can't wait to get to it. I'm in his early years right now. I just started it like yesterday, but
Ross is a real deal Carol City, Miami dude.
Yeah. Really.
You know, and again, I can go into 5 podcasts about Rick Ross. You know, I did 9 years as his head engineer, and I've known him for 15 years, if not longer now. But especially back then, Ross was a very aggressive guy, very. But when it came to the hustle, and then when it came to his self-discipline and his focus, he was very positive. He's one of the people that taught me about speaking things into existence. And living them into reality, where like again, when I first met him, he was the boss. He moved like a boss. I feel like that was by design. I think he always did that because he had you kind of portray what you want to be and you're facing in the direction you want to be moving. So he always had that attitude. He always looked like he had it figured out, you know. Like even when we were going through hard times, when we was going through the whole 50 Cent battle and stuff like that, and this is real talk, and I tell people this, and I don't sugarcoat anything. It would be just me and him in the room, and he never sat there and said anything negative or never said, "Damn, man." All he would ever say is, "Man, watch when we drop this next one on him." Oh,
Everything is positive. That's what I love about him.
He just has such an amount of confidence in himself, and like I said, he can see ahead. You know, he knows that the groundwork we're laying down right now is leading towards the bigger goals, and you know, I've learned a lot from him, just from that attitude and just being around him a lot.
Yeah, he reminds me of this book, Think and Grow Rich, a lot too. Yeah. And I think I hear a lot of his stuff in the music of like that book's philosophies, which I live by too. Yeah. And that's why I really get into him too, because it's like, oh, I know where he got this from. Yeah, that's speaking into existence and being it. And yeah.
100%.
Love it.
Die by these Reeboks. That's him, right?
Yeah, die by these Reeboks. Ain't even know it. Yeah. Like, we want to get pumped.
That's one of the favorites.
Yeah.
He gets played a lot.
That was on Rocco's record.
Yeah.
Did you work on it?
Huh?
Did you work on it?
Actually, that record, no, I did not work on that song itself. But that,
yeah.
I've had a couple hiatuses. Me and him we'd bump heads and stuff, and I wouldn't be around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was one of those times. But yeah, so I meet him. I actually go on to start working on Trick Daddy's next project, which was the Thug Matrimony album, which was also I believe it debuted #1. It's a platinum album now. That was the lead single on that was the Let's Go record. Let's go. If you want it, you can get it. Let me know. You know, it had that Ozzy Osbourne sample in there. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
So that was that project. So I went right into that project. So now all of a sudden I'm booming. Now I'm with the biggest rap artist in Miami. We just had a major release You know, had a couple records on there that went big. We had a Sugar record with CeeLo and Lil Kim on it. And so now I'm out here. I'm eMIX now. My identity solidified, and I'm like a real player in the Miami music industry. So I'm doing that, and then I actually started to work. I was one of the first people there on the ground floor when Trick started Donk Rider Records. So I was working with him and his artists when one day one of his artists, which he was a high schooler still, we'd wait for him to come from school so we could start recording. He came in and he said, "Man, Ross got him one." And we're like, "Yeah." He said something like, whip it real good." We were like, "Oh, for real?" And when the video came out, when they shot the video, it was right down the street at the Carol Mart. There's a flea market, which is not there anymore. They knocked it down. But that was like iconic for Carol City. So we all went out there, and that was like one of the times I got to. That's when I hadn't seen him in a while, and so we kind of rekindled our relationship, and was like, "Hey, you know, blah blah blah." And we kind of just, you know, exchanged numbers, etc. But it didn't pick up. Moving forward, I fall out with Trick. I started doing work, but I was kind of out here though. I had enough network now where I just kind of jumped into another project. But what's funny enough is half of the shit wasn't paying on time, if paying at all. I remember I was working on a Trina project, and literally I had no lights on at the time, but I just kept working because I was like, as long as I keep tallying up this money, at some point these people still owe me, so I'd rather be owed than just have nothing.
Yeah.
But I still don't have anything. I just have IOUs and shit, you know. And
baby, gonna get back to you. Like
it was rough. Step in my next mentor was he's a Full Sail grad, Ray C, which he graduated in, I think, in 1990, right around the same time that Leslie did. I think Leslie was 89 or something. 91. I know they were both around the 90s.
Yeah, early 90s.
But he called me. I had worked with him before. I had assisted him on some mixes. Matter of fact, my first, well, I didn't get a credit, but my first big record that I worked on as an assistant doing the clean version was for the Yin Yang Twins. From the window to the wall.
that ripped the South. Jeez.
Yeah, so he had mixed that record, and I had to assist him on doing the super clean.
You know, that's a lot of work. God almighty.
Oh yeah, recalling a board back in the day, and this was back when, you know, we had all the gear and we had the, like, you know, the little papers with the little knobs, and we had to kind of try and match it. But anyway, that just fast. So anyway, coming back to where I was, so Ray C came back into my life by accident, and I started assisting him a little bit. So things kind of picked up, but then he ended up moving to Atlanta, and so he offered me to move, but I had my kid and I couldn't do it. And so I was in a rut there. So this is where I am at. And I know I'm jumping around, but this is where I was at with the Trina situation, where I told you I had no lights. Because he had left, and I'm just kind of doing one-off gigs.
Yeah.
And things were like, I'm slowly, you know, sinking in the quicksand. Like I'm surviving, but I'm not really thriving.
Yeah.
But I'm doing major shit. Well, hey, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on Trick Daddy. Oh, I'm working on Trina. I'm doing this, but it's like, man,
financially ruined, dude.
I'll have some lights on maybe next month. So Ray C came down to do a session at Circle House, and I came to visit him, just to visit him on some, hey, what's up? And I go into the hallway, and it's Rick Ross and DJ Khaled there. Now this is Hustlin' had came out. Rick Ross is the guy. Khaled is you know, Khaled is Khaled.
And if you weren't in Miami when Hustlin' came out, geez. That track Hustlin' by Rick Ross, destroyed every club, because I was on the live side. So I was in all the clubs, and the clubs it was a destroyer every time, and they would play it like 2 and 3 times in a night. Like, so he was at the height of whatever you could do Miami rap wise. So I had assisted a little bit,
I know I'm kind of jumping around, but I did actually assist a little bit on the Triller album, which was the second album.
Yeah.
And we had talked about like, hey man, we got to link up, we got to, let's do this thing. But and they just never formulated. So then I bump into him there on chance in the lobby, and we talk. And he's like, look, I'm working on my next album. I got a studio in Atlanta. I don't have an engineer though. I just got some guys in there press and record. I need somebody to come up and clean stuff up. At this point, honestly, and I tell people like this because I try and keep it real for people that listen, especially kids that are trying to come up.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to have doubts and feel like, man, I don't know, be down. Like I think a lot of people portray like, man, I was always positive. I was I was always on, I saw it. No, I was
Yeah.
when he told me that, I was literally thinking about already quitting. I was already like, I'm done. They got me.
I know.
I
All
gave
these
it.
IOUs.
I gave it a go. Maybe they were. I think they were right.
Yeah.
They told me, "No, I'm just gonna get me a job." And when Ross presented that opportunity to me, I honestly counted. I said, "Okay, day rate, 2 weeks." I said, "I can come home with enough money to kind of give me some leeway for about 2 months to look for a real job." That was going to be my escape money. That was going to be the money, that the last hurrah. Let me just get the
Lazar.
very last one, and I'm out. And so
The
I fly up
Teflon
there.
Don.
Yeah, I fly up there. And actually, it was funny because it was like 2 weeks. Like they told me, yeah, we're gonna go, and then I kept calling them, like, what are we doing? What's going on? I wasn't used to this. That's when I started to learn just how chaotic this shit is. And then
Uh-huh.
literally Thanksgiving night, all right, we out. I was like, what? Yeah, you got your ticket. I'm sending it to you right now. And so I just packed up and just left Thanksgiving night to Ross's crib. This is 2008 now. Thanksgiving 2008. I go up there, and mind you, like I said, I told you back when before Ross was big, I've been to. He had a townhouse, and he had a dope townhouse, and he had a big Shark Tank and all that. But it was not what I was coming to now. Like we went up there, and he had this mega mansion with the double R's on the gates,
The
and
Holyfield Mansion.
well, not yet. No,
Oh,
the
that
Holy
wasn't. Oh, okay.
no. This was but this
Oh,
house is
this
right
was
down the street
08.
from the Holyfield Mansion. And this is
Yeah.
another testament to speaking into existence. He literally moved in that community because it was a mile away from the Holyfield Mansion. So he would drive by the Holyfield Mansion all the time. And just he liked it. And this
Yeah.
is way before he ever thought he would be buying it.
Uh-huh.
And he would, I can't speak for him, but from what I believe, like I believe he felt like one day it's gonna be
Uh-huh.
mine. So yeah, it was literally down the street. So when I get there, he smokes me out. I'm super high, and he starts playing me the music, and I'm just blown away. Some of the
Yeah.
dopest shit I ever heard, and I'm like, wow, because he had already been working for the most part. Probably about six of the songs were already pretty much done. Needed to be cleaned up, but they were
Yeah.
recorded, and I was super amazed. And then he kind of just said, "Man, go ahead, man. It's you. This is your studio. Rock out, clean." And then he went upstairs, left me there, and I'm just high listening to shit, start touching up stuff. Like 2 days later, well, I don't even know if it was a whole 2 days later. He's like, "Yo, we gotta go. We got a show. We're gonna be on the road for a little bit. Just go in." So he literally left me in this mansion by myself in the woods for 2 weeks to sit with this music. This album, this was the Deeper Than Rap. This is right before, this is the pre stuff for Deeper Than Rap.
Ah.
So I cleaned all that up as much as whatever I had there, and when they came back, he listened to everything and was like, "Oh man, that's it, I need you." And then we had a big meeting, and what turned into my last hurrah turned into my new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went through a lot, because I was just, now I'm a part of the team. And I remember the day I sent the email to all, back then it was email blasts and
Yeah.
those kind of things. You send it to the big email blast guys, and they're the ones who pump it out to all the DJ coalitions and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Back then they used to have those DJ conventions and meetings where like the artist would go to, and you'd link up with all the different DJs and all that. So we would email blast it to all the DJs so it could spread out. And so that record was Mafia Music, which Mafia Music is the record that had that started the 50 Cent beef. You know, that was the record that like 50 Cent retaliated to, and then it snowballed into this thing. So those were pretty testing times coming in as the new guy on the team, and we had another new guy with me. It was a film dude named Spiff TV that he was doing all the videos, but we always thought it was funny that I remember one time 50 said he's like, oh, he's wasting his whole budget on all this material he's putting out against me. You know, he thought Def Jam was paying for all this. He thought Ross had the whole building behind him, and it was really just like 3-4 of us, you know, at Ross's house. You know, I was recording and mixing everything, and they were shooting guerrilla style videos, you know, just on the street. And all this stuff was in-house. Ross was just paying us. It had nothing to do with Def Jam. And I tell that story because they could battle me. They could say whatever they want to say. We were like the first real major artists to really start flooding the scene with a lot of content early. Like doing interviews, doing freestyles. We were doing freestyles every week. We were doing just different pieces because we were battling 50. So 50 was doing it. We were retaliating to 50 in the beginning, but then we kind of took it from 50 and we took the reins and we created the pace, and we outpaced 50 in his own game, where 50 was doing like cartoons and he was doing a pimpin' curly thing. He was like this character with a wig. And so what we started doing was, and again, the reason why we did this was because now that we had this 50 Cent attention on us, we had all his crowd following us also, you know what I mean? Trying to, you know, oh, you know, and of course they were all like, oh, this fat dude from Miami, yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, 50's going to tear him up because at that point, 50 was the giant killer, you know, Ja Rule and Fat Joe. So
murder.
They didn't even know who Rick Ross was. Oh, he's some South dude. Oh, he's out of here. And so we took this opportunity with that light shining on us now to pump him with content, pump him with music. We kept it player, and Ross is a slick talker, and you know, so they got to know this guy and they got to know his music. And we went out of our way to start rapping on all hip-hop beats, old school hip-hop beats. He shot a video in 50 Cent's hood and everything, and it was all guerrilla style. It was all like, yo, just start filming. I'm right here, boom. And we were pumping them out. This was like right when World Star first started, World Star Hip Hop. And so we were pumping something on there damn near every 3 days. And it started to take a hold. It you know, in the beginning, you know, they were like, oh yeah, you know, he's all right. And then it was, you know, no, first it was like he wasn't shit.
Yeah,
it was like
a factor. Yeah, right.
Whatever. And then it would be like, I don't know. You know, you can say what you want, but he kind of all right. And then it turned into, yo, dude is nice. And we won everybody over. And when the album came out, debuted #1, and proof was in the pudding. Fast forward, now everybody loves us again because a lot of people like already started kind of backing away. You know, oh man, 50 is gonna murder this dude. It all looks bad. So a lot of people were tentative, didn't want to mess with us. So now after that, now everybody wanted to work with us. So when it came to Teflon Don was like, to me, that's definitely, I probably, there's other albums that I did a lot, and there was a lot of me in there, but that album was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There was a lot of stress and passion in that project.
Hey, I listened to that thing religiously when I moved here to New York. It was just like my grinding album.
We mastered all our projects up there. Sterling.
Wow. Yeah.
And I went to every mastering. Every album that I ever worked on with Ross, I've attended the mastering sessions. That's how.
Where you master at?
It was at Sterling. We mastered with Chris Athens. Chris Athens now has moved to Austin, Texas. So we still master with Chris, but yeah, at the time he was at Sterling, right there over by Chelsea Market.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I love Chelsea Market. I miss the gelato there.
I know, right?
So yeah, those projects. So just to kind of, I mean, there's so again, I could go so deep on Rick Ross and stuff like that, and and I'd love to. As no diss to him at all. That's my brother.
Oh no, this is your story, but yeah.
But because I could just each album, like I said,
it's whole movie. Yeah, I'm sure.
I got somebody else first, and you get a little inkling of it. I talk a little bit about BMF in the book. Well, then I don't talk about it, but they talk about me with the whole BMF thing.
Oh,
as far as how we reported BMF.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, blowing money fast. Let's go.
Yeah. And I will speak on BMF a little bit, where like that was the first time I've ever been a part of like a runaway like hit, and it's a different feeling, And it's funny because the origins are so funny because, real quick, we were working on a mixtape. Every album Ross did, he would always do a mixtape previous. He would always we'd always do like the industry album, but then we'd always do something for the streets. So I remember at that time, Diddy was kind of like fake managing. I don't even want to say fake. I don't know. That's just a slang term because I think people would take it wrong. It's not fake. It's like sort of managing. The reason why I say that is just because Ross is kind of unmanageable.
Yeah.
So,
it's a ball. So how you gonna manage the ball?
Yeah. You're managing, but it's only because he's allowing you to manage him.
Yeah.
So Diddy was definitely around, and I remember we went to Daddy's house in New York, and which was a big thing for me, Biggie and stuff.
I mean, yes. I mean, who hadn't heard about Daddy's house is Diddy's studio from back in the day. I mean,
So we played the mixtape. We were playing just records. Right now, it wasn't even it wasn't a mixtape yet. It was just a collective of songs that we had, and two of those songs were what the hell's the other record? It's with Gucci on it. Oh man.
Oh yeah. I know.
It's gonna come to me, but one of them was BMF, and the other one was the other record. Jeez, brain.
MC Hammer.
MC Hammer.
Yeah.
There you go.
I tell you, that was in the car grinding, trying to make it here in New York City. My first year here. That was like 2009 or so. 2010 or something.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
That was the end of 2009, going into
exactly. Yeah, I listen to that all the time.
Yeah, so we played those songs, and Puff was like, "You're not putting these out on a mixtape. You're not getting."
Yeah, that was gonna be on the mixtape.
It ended up on the mixtape.
Oh, it was.
But again, you're not gonna manage Ross if he has his mindset around what you're telling me. That's what I'm doing. So he made a big stink about it. Then this was early. This was way before we even had a track list for the mixtape, and he was like, "No." So here we go. We're wrapping it up, and I think I don't even think no. It was only MC Hammer. BMF wasn't even done yet. BMF maybe was a beat. I don't even know if we had it, but we had MC Hammer. And they're both produced by the same producer, which is
yeah, I could hear that.
Yeah, that's man, brain farts, man. I just talked to him the other day too. He's from Virginia. It'll come to me. But yeah, so BMF wasn't there yet. So this is why I know, because now my story is going to lead into BMF. So we had MC Hammer, and then we needed another joint like that. We wanted that up tempo. We loved that. So boom, we got the BMF beat. And Ross went to writing it. He had to fly out the next morning, and he went to writing it. But he had just came back from somewhere and performing, and his voice was done. He was talking like this, and it was like, yo, we tried to have a go at it, and it just didn't sound right. So the plan was go ahead and lay down, drink some tea, and we're gonna wake up like at 5 a.m. We're gonna we're gonna get this shit done before I get on this flight. He had like a 7 a.m. flight or something. So he goes to sleep. I sleep over his crib, and he wakes up 5 a.m. We get in there, and he sounds maybe a little better. And somehow we came to the conclusion, hey man, just yell that fucker out. I think he started rapping, and when he would get more energy, his voice would have it kind of got that body back. It wasn't a whisper anymore. So then I think we just said, hey man, you got to belt that whole fucking thing out that same way. That's the only way it's gonna get out. And that's how we recorded that. And we did it in 15 minutes pretty much, because it was like he had already pretty much had it written from the night before.
Uh-huh.
Just went in there and belted it out. It sounded hoarse, but it and because he had to belt it out to get his voice to push through that rasp, that it actually added to the intensity in the delivery of that record. And I think that's what pushed that record over the top. So he flies out, you know, literally people are running in the room like, yo, we gotta go, because we're still in there finishing up. I'm like, yo, he's almost done. And they're literally, we're gonna miss this flight. So right when he jumps out, we might have listened to it. I think he literally didn't even listen to the whole song. He was walking out the door, and I just left the door open and cranked it so he could hear it on the way out. And then he's like, clean it up, send it to me, you know, blah, 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 when I touch down.
Yeah.
So mind you, I'm doing a whole mixtape. I'm not even just doing that one song. That just so happened to be the last song we had to record. So I'm kind of touching up everything. I remember doing the delays on that. I think I'm big, Meech. Larry Hoover, who ripping work. And
Hallelujah.
I sent it to him. He was like, send me the record. I sent it to him. He I think he called me back and he's like, yo, take all those delays off. It just sound terrible. And I'm like, yo, they dope, man. I think it's dope and whatever. So I hang up the phone with him. I start taking them off, and then he calls me right back. Nah, keep them. They got a vibe. And I was like, all right. So I keep them. Now I collect the whole song, the whole project, and I got to go to another studio to master, because his setup at the house was limited to only so many tracks. So I needed to do the whole project, master it. I mastered it at Audiovision, where I started, that same studio. I came there, I mastered it. I had our promo guy come right to the studio and pick up the master CD that I burned for him so he could do duplicates. This is back still physicals. So we're doing, there is no MP3s. People aren't downloading music yet. You know, it was a novelty at that time. I think there was like some, you know, hey, download the project, or, you know, but it was still mega CD time at that time. So we burnt them. So that next weekend, that was so that was a Thursday, because we were doing this for Memorial Day weekend. So we wanted to have them pressed up and ready so we can start passing them out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Thursday, so Friday, we had the physical copies. And that Friday, Ross had to record I think it was the All I Do Is Win remix. And Puffy's in the remix, Nicki Minaj. There was a couple other there. And so at the video shoot, the promo guy started putting CDs on everybody's cars and putting flyers, you know what I mean? And so Diddy had his Jeep out there. So, he had so the promo guy put CDs on his seat. So we're leaving the video shoot, and Puffy plays the CD, and here's BMF. And beelines it over to us, to Ross. Says, I told you not to put this on a mixtape, man. This is too big. He started going into this big thing, and Ross is like, like, chill out. I know what I'm doing. Just boss shit. Man. And I think that Saturday we had a performance, and he didn't even perform it. He just played it in the club. And when I tell you, man, immediately we all looked at each other, the crowd, for a brand new record that only been out 2 days, with no promo, no radio play. There is no internet. There is no, what's hip, what's trending. There is no such thing as trending. The crowd reacted different, and we all literally gave each other that look across from the room from each other, like, yo, like, are you seeing this? And that Sunday, we had this, it's like a Jamaican festival there. It's called Best of the Best. And Ross was performing. And Ross does BMF. That's the first time he performed it. And because in the beginning of the song, you hear these kind of stomps, these gung, 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 gung. And when that shit happened, the crowd, you could hear them. Like, yeah, this is the song. This is the one. He's going to do it. Like, everybody, and like, man, I got goosebumps right now. Like,
yeah, ain't nothing like a track exploding in a crowd, especially in Miami.
It's super and it's intense. And then And then we went and did it, I think a week later. So already we were already overjoyed and ecstatic about the potential of this record just off of that weekend. A week or two later, we were doing Birthday Bash in Atlanta, and Puff was out there. Puff came out and was hyping Ross on BMF. And I went into the crowd. I used to like to go into the crowd instead of being backstage. I like to get the whole crowd experience. So I went into the crowd, and I remember when that song was playing, and I remember I turned around and just looked, and I could see all the way to the back, everybody just jumping and just rapping along. I think I'm Big Meech. There we Hoover. Like they knew the lyrics, man. And Puffy's on the stage, and that's when we all knew, when we had like a conversation about like this shit is out here. It
was bananas. Even here, I had moved to New York. It was on every other song on Hot 97. It was just everywhere. That BMF was just such a banger.
Yeah, man, amazing. Such a huge record.
Yeah.
Won a couple awards. I think we won some Soul Train awards, some BET awards for it, Summer Banger of the Year and shit like that or whatever. Yeah, man. And that was a super proud moment for me. And just the whole Teflon Don album, like I said, I really put a lot. I mean, I have a long ass podcast length version of the whole. I have the platform here, Aston Martin music.
Yeah.
And what was the relationship with your parents then after that recording?
I wouldn't even say they were 100% sold yet. My mom was always
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I was flying. They had new reasons to be annoyed with me. Now I was
you never hear now, like
yeah. So, I mean, it was my dad. He's a hard guy to please. Now he loves me to death. I'm not to say he never did love me.
Like
I told you from the beginning, my dad was a sergeant in the Army, so
discipline, right?
Yeah, he's not he's a prickly guy. You know what I'm saying? He's not all soft and cushy. It's got to be without a shadow of a doubt, because he already seen my downfall. So he was the kind of guy like, well, hey, don't fuck up again. Don't fall backward. That was his kind of way of, good. But that was him really being like, watch out now, you might fuck it up again.
For more information of booking 23DB Productions, visit their website at 23dbproductions.com. Like and follow 23DB Productions at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the latest work.